Welcome back. Hello, howdy, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing this on the hockey guy set. Obviously, not wearing a jersey. I only wear jerseys in videos, basically, at this point. If I'm going to watch a hockey game, other than that, I usually wear t-shirts. In this case, CM Punk, the AEW version of the t-shirt. So I want to talk about Legends of Tomorrow. We're about halfway through the season already, I guess. 13 episode seasons, usually the case with them, anyways. 13, sometimes 16, right? So last season was Aliens, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. This year they are recreating the fifth season of Andromeda. So Andromeda was a show that I thought was underrated in its time. If you haven't watched the show Andromeda, and I understand there's people who have problems with Kevin Sorbo's views and things and whatnot, but he's the main star of it. However, it's a really good show, and Andromeda, I think, has aged well. And I remember when Andromeda did season 5, there were people who didn't like it because what they did was they took the ship away. And the characters had to kind of exist in this science fiction environment without the ship. And it was a chance for the show to do something different and to create new relationships and to change up the whole way that the show works, which it needed. I thought it did anyways, and I knew a lot of people didn't like it. Although there were changes made to the show that people didn't like, I was always a big Rade fan, and not everybody was. So, anyways, I understood there were people who were mad about some of the casting changes that happened along the way. I thought the show was really good in its fifth season, and it kind of feels like Legends of Tomorrow is doing the same thing, where they've realized, okay, so the whole aliens thing, we were that was really out there. That kind of ended ridiculous, right? So Rory's gone off to raise alien babies with Kayla, which is weird. I mean, it's fine, but at the same time, it's like I had kind of hoped that Mick's daughter would somehow at some point end up being one of the legends. Maybe she still will. Maybe that'll happen in a future season. Because as far as I know, it is renewed for next season as well. So it had a multiple season renewal, last I heard, anyways. Unless it was the past season and this one, which I know they filmed close to one another. So they're stuck in the 1920s, right? So this is the equivalent of them being stuck on an alien planet, like in the show Andromeda, because they don't have their access to technology, they don't have access to the Wave Rider because it was destroyed. And now Gideon's become a character. Now I'm going to say this: Amy Pemberton is a fantastic actress. And so I looked her up and I thought, well, Amy Pemberton had to have been in a lot of other stuff, right? No. She's done voice acting. She's done drama, which I got right away. The first episode she was in, I thought, this is usually an actress that's on the stage. Just the way she moves, the way she talks. She's very out there and her movements are very deliberate. And I thought she looks like somebody who's done a lot of work on stage. She's not as wooden as some of the TV actors are. So I love her work so far. She's done a great job. I thought on this episode where they got her to sing again, because she's a fantastic singer. The actress in real life is a great singer. So I don't know how many chances they're going to take to try to get her to sing, but I got a feeling it's going to be a lot of them. There'll probably be a musical episode at some point, I would think, that would involve Gideon. And you know what? I'm fine with that. Sometimes the best episodes in a show could be the musical ones. Remember the musical episode of Buffy? So many secrets came out in that episode. That was a game changer. So if they're done right, a musical episode can be great. The whole Bullet Blondes thing, God, that's weird. And I'll lump that in with J. Edgar Hoover. That's weird too. So when they, again, spoiler alert, right? I don't know if anybody wants to watch it. They're already watching it. So they killed J. Edgar Hoover. Now, this is a show about not ruining the timeline, and I thought, they didn't just kill Hoover. That's not a thing. But apparently it was, and now there's like J. Edgar Hoover robots chasing them. I don't care. I I thought it was weird because he kind of sets up a roadblock. Then they start driving away, and then he jumps on the roof, and I'm like, no normal person would jump on the roof of a car. So I started thinking he's a robot, he's a cyborg, he's an alien. Started thinking like all these things, and then they killed him, and they had Gary eat him because Gary's an alien. when it's convenient for the plot, Gary's an alien. Other than that, he's not. But yeah, it's which is one of my main sticking points with the show now, is that Gary's an alien. Yeah, that still bothers me, because it doesn't. The rest of none of that. No, can't break my brain. The whole Bullet Blondes thing is weird too, because like they're wanted all across the country for like these 2 minor robberies that they committed, and they're all over the front page of newspapers, and I'm like, I don't think that would have been a thing. Even in the 1920s, I think they had something more important to talk about than 2 blonde ladies that robbed a couple of banks for like spare change. They didn't even take everything the bank could have given them. So I don't. Yeah, and then they play into these prohibition storyline things tonight, or well, the episode I watched today that was from last Wednesday, and I think with Legends too, sometimes they try to have these big moments where they're talking about the morality of the time, and they're really heavy-handed with it, which is okay, because we know the 1920s, things weren't great around anywhere. They weren't great. The world had just come out of one world war and it's getting ready for another. It was not a fantastic time in general. But I feel like these storylines don't quite add up. Because again, you don't want to ruin the timeline. You don't want to break it. And yet, they not only, in last week's episode, which again I watched today, not only did they interfere with the guy who was running a speakeasy, but they got him a ton of money. So now he's going to start his own place. And I thought, how many ripples through the timeline have they caused in the 1920s? They're causing so many major ripples. Like we were talking, that's why I thought with J. Edgar Hoover, I thought, well, they didn't actually kill Hoover, because that would cause major ripples in the timeline. Like on a level that I understand they've messed with the timeline before. I remember, where there's a dinosaur in modern times and all this, because they screwed up the timeline so much. But this is just it's egregious, right? And like Spooner had a good line where she says to Astra, if you're going to help out every woman in a bad relationship from here to New York, we're not even going to get out of Chicago. And she's right. It's the 1920s. So the whole J. Edgar Hoover Bullet Blondes thing is weird, but the Narnia key, which is what I call it, is weird too. So they have this key that Constantine left behind, and it's their sonic screwdriver. So I watched a Doctor Who episode of Flux last week, and I was like, oh god, the sonic screwdriver's back to fixing absolutely everything, and the Doctor can just with it, and it automatically reads whatever she needs in that moment. It's the most convenient thing ever. They got to the point with the sonic screwdriver during the Matt Smith era that they had to take it away from Peter Capaldi, because they realized all it was a Deus Ex Machina. The Narnia key is weird. It is this key that if you put it in any door, it'll basically let you out of whatever situation you're in. It takes you to this mansion that's Constantine's mansion, but it's in a hell dimension, and it's just bizarre. And then they had this big party in the episode, and Zari lost her phone, and I thought, well, there you go. Somebody from the 1920s is going to pick up her phone, and it's going to throw off the timeline, and they're going to have to... No, Astra picked it up outside the room where the key was. Like, nobody picked it. How did it get kicked all the way out there? It was in the main room. Like, I understand, like, the whole setup, it doesn't... I was like, how the hell did it end up out there? Did somebody pick it up and then throw it out? Like, nobody would pick that up and then get rid of it, because they'd be like, this is some kind of machine. I don't know what this is. Like, it's a cell phone from after now. Like, Zari's cell phone is from, like, 2064 or whatever it is. So that kind of broke my brain just a little bit. And that was after I was like, okay, seriously, Zari would just put her phone down and walk away from it with a big party going on? Are you serious? You're taking me for a moron right now, because Zari would not do that. But it doesn't matter, because Zari's turning more and more into regular Zari. She's not the self-obsessed Zari. So the difference between her and the other Zari is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And now Gary has a crush on her, and I was like... So, yeah. I don't know why we can't just have the old Zari back and pair her up with Nate. I understand, the whole Bayrod thing and kill Bayrod, but come on. They're completely screwing with the timeline right now, so... They could be doing things to the timeline that would take themselves out of the Legends of Tomorrow. But whatever. I digress. So you have the Spooner and Astra storyline where they're with Gideon, and then the others are in their own group. The only problem I have with that is that what you're doing here, and I mean, it's something you see a lot in TV shows, and that's the problem I had with the Doctor Who episode last week. You had 6 or 7 different storylines, and it's like 5 minutes for each storyline, which means that you're like, okay, so I think I'm understanding what's going on, and you switch to that scene. I have no idea I think I'm starting to understand. Oh, you switched. Oh, the Suntarans, or oh, the Suntarans, that's easy. Oh, Weeping Angels. Okay, and you're in the past, and oh, we're back to the Doctor, and we're back to, okay, and what's happening over, okay, now there's a guy with the dog head, so that means Russell T Davies is coming back because we're having people with dog faces, and the cat faces are next. And it's too much. And sometimes with Legends, it can be a little bit too much as well, where you've got these different storylines going on, and one of them will usually be of great consequence, and the other one isn't. And the morality play this week, and there were 2 of them going on at the same line. You had the downtrodden woman who was going to end up being killed by her boyfriend, and then you had a case of a black man being put out of his business by the Chicago Mafia, and it's like, okay, so how many different heavy-handed storylines we're going to do at the same time? Because this used to be the most fun show, and it still tries to kind of sort of be. The Nate Zari thing is weird because now, with Gary having a conversation with Nate, they're making it sound like maybe they're going to break up Nate and Zari. Why? He can go into the totem whenever he wants, basically. Right? So there's not really a reason to break up with her, because he doesn't need to. And I get the feeling they're going to break them up, and I don't understand why, unless it's that Tala Ash doesn't want to play both Zaris, but I don't think that's a problem either. Like, I don't get it. And then there's the Bayrod character, which I thought early in this season, I thought, okay, we're going to stop making constant references to him eating edibles. Right? He's going to be an actual character this year. He's not going to be a caricature. Now, Bayrod is a character that Zari was willing to give her life for because it's her brother. But all we've seen of Bayrod so far is that he has the totem that makes him do the wind powers, and he eats edibles. And that's his character. There isn't one. And it at the start of this year, it looked like they were gonna make him a character. Towards the end of last year, with the whole Constantine turning evil thing, there were moments there that Bayrod felt like an actual real character with dimensions and ideas of his own that weren't related to, hey, I need more edibles because waka waka waka. But it's kind of gone back. Bayrod had a part in this past week's episode where he's playing in a jazz group, and it's just sort of there. And Zari's like, oh, I had no idea that he wanted to do that. I had no idea. And then it's just sort of, well, that's done. Now we're going to move on to over here. And so he doesn't get any depth to him. There's not really a character there. And when you've got a show that has as many characters as this show has, I understand you can't give them all depth. But I want Bayrod to have depth. They've made it clear that Zari's part on the ship is now kind of, I mean, it's, anyway, I don't understand what they're doing with Bayrod. I don't. What is the point of Bayrod? Because if both of them have the totem, then you just have Zari, and then stoner male Zari, and there's nothing. There's nothing there. I'd like to see him be able to fix Gideon from top to bottom. I'd like or the Wave Rider, right? I'd like to see him have some other relationship. Like the relationship between him and Nate isn't convincing, and fans have said this the whole way through. It's not a convincing, because Bayrod wasn't a character until Zari got taken out at the end of not this past season, but the one before that. And so he was just sort of thrust in that, okay, the timeline changed. Now Bayrod and Nate are best friends. But we never really saw how, other than they have like a secret handshake, high five kind of thing. There you go. There's your friendship. There's no depth to it. It doesn't show very much. It doesn't talk about, they didn't even do the flashback thing to establish it. It's just sort of there. And we're just sort of supposed to go, oh, okay, so the storyline changed. So now Bayrod's this interesting. But you have to introduce him and explain him to us. Otherwise, as I've called him numerous times, he's kind of Roy from Simpsons, right? Like Poochie. He's kind of got this Poochie element to him. He's stoner Poochie. And I I don't like that. I want to like I want depth to the character. Now, I will say this, the check mark I'm giving to this season, there's no aliens, there's no demons, there's no really major issues. Astra's powers being, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. It's kind of a sonic screwdriver situation where it's like, okay, how do we get ourselves out of this scene? Okay, Astra casts a spell. That's what we'll do. Astra casts a spell. And so she casts a spell. And if you don't think about it, that's kind of cool. But if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. So, I also have to get a kick out of the fact that Sarah's an alien. Now, Katie Lotz, who plays Sarah, you can see that her roots are dark, meaning that the alien clone version of Sarah was born with her hair dyed blonde. They're in the 1920s. There's been no effort to do anything to buy stuff. So, remarkably, her hair is staying blonde and the roots are staying at the same length. It's one of those things I noticed, right? Where I'm like, oh, it's nice she's able to bleach her hair on another planet. Which is where she was. They don't mention that she's an alien. They don't mention that she's invulnerable either. Like, she took bullets last season and just spits them out. Like, they don't do anything to her anymore. She's basically Superman. She's Neo from the Matrix. And they don't do anything with this. And it makes me wonder, so do they want us, the viewers, to forget that Sarah's completely invulnerable and invincible at this point? Because going back to the J. Edgar Hoover thing, Sarah could have just taken him out. Because she's invulnerable. She can't die. So they didn't have to kill and eat J. Edgar Hoover. Just have Sarah do like, I don't... And the thing is, I much prefer this season to last season. There's a lot less for me to get. Like, to me, the stuff that's getting me right now is the stuff that it just feels like it's the ongoing issue the show has. But this season, at least it feels like the stories have a start and a middle and an end. And last year, they didn't always feel that way. It was very disjointed. And I will say, too, the Spooner and Astra relationship is interesting to me because they're best friends. And I keep thinking they're not going to bring in like a romantic entanglement between them, are they? Because that happens. It is the CW, and the CW is infamous for their shows introducing random romantic entanglements and thinking that's the only thing that could drive a plot forward. I know on The Flash, I noticed that Crunk and Allegra were starting to kind of look at each other, and I'm like, oh no, let's not. No. Let's not do that and say we did. Because again, I don't think you need everybody to be paired off on a show. That's a complaint I have with TV in general. The worst mistake they ever made with Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory was giving him a girlfriend because his character was asexual. That was kind of agreed upon. And I always felt like him having a girlfriend kind of betrayed him being asexual. And so that was something that always kind of stuck with me. And I thought that doesn't add up. I didn't think the character was gay, but I didn't think the character had a preference. I felt like he was just better off left alone. And then they completely changed the character by the end. So there you go. My opinion on this year's Legends of Tomorrow. I have a lot of hope that this year's going to go well. They do still have, of course, the storyline where Gideon, the other Gideon, the robot Gideon, is going to search for her former legends, and she's had her mind wiped, so the Wave Rider is going to be going off to kill them. But remember, this season started with the Wave Rider blowing up the Wave Rider, which, yeah, that's a paradox, and it's fine, apparently. Apparently it's fine. But there's a lot of things they're doing to the timeline right now that are screaming for Gideon, the other Gideon, not the current, the human Gideon, to get involved. The human Gideon storyline, I'm very interested. I think she might be the best character on the show right now. I think she's the most consistent character on the show, and probably the most entertaining. And Amy Pemberton deserves to have a lot more acting roles where she's in front of the camera, not just voice work. And I think she's delightful. So hopefully that happens. But let me know your thoughts if you've been watching Legends in the comments section below. And this is what I do when hockey's over early. I'm like, well, I got time. I'm going to do an Entertainment Guy video. where I talk about a TV show. So it's not all bunnies right now, although the day-by-day bunny videos are cute. And those bunnies are really sweet. And they are very comfortable with us handling them, because I've seen comments about that too. They're very comfortable with us handling them. They go to sleep in my arms. They go to sleep, or in my hand. They go to sleep in Yvonne's hands, the kids' hands too. They're very comfortable with that. We're very careful with how we pick them up. We're very careful with how we put them back down. And yeah, it's amazing to see how quickly they change. We knew they changed quickly, but it's amazing to watch it firsthand. So it's been great for the kids too. We weigh them every day and all that other wonderful stuff. And that's how we can tell which ones are really getting fed well by Dandelion and which ones aren't. And so the ones that aren't, or that we feel look kind of a little bit emaciated, we're stepping in and helping them get fed too, so that we know that they're all going to make it. So then it's a matter of figuring out who's going to take baby bunnies. I think there'll be people who want baby bunnies because they're just so darn cute. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. If you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video, hi, and go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Greatly appreciated. Thank you guys again for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.